By the late 8th century, overseas raids produced consequences before any source preserved the raiders' reasons. Churches were attacked, captives disappeared, treasure moved, and coastal communities faced enemies arriving by ship. No Scandinavian manifesto explains why these voyages began. The causes must be tested against timing, geography, opportunity, politics, and the practical demands of seaborne violence. One famous explanation blames population pressure in a crowded northern homeland. Others point toward elite competition, maritime technology, trade intelligence, or reaction to Carolingian aggression. None works everywhere alone, so the pattern matters more than a single motive. Scandinavia before 793 was not isolated from Western Europe. Merchants, craftspeople, diplomats, mercenaries, and travelers already crossed the North Sea and Baltic. Trading centers, such as Ribe, developed during the 8th century, linking regional production with wider exchange. Frisian commerce carried goods, coin, information, and knowledge of sea routes. The same connections that enabled trade could reveal wealthy targets and political vulnerabilities. Contact came first, raiding redirected existing mobility toward coercive acquisition. Portable church wealth made monasteries attractive, but silver alone cannot explain the first departures. Religious houses held metalwork, provisions, livestock, books, and people who might be ransomed or enslaved. Some stood near navigable shores with limited permanent defense. Their symbolic importance magnified the shock recorded by Christian writers. Yet raiders also attacked towns, estates, ships, and secular settlements. Opportunity explains target selection better than it explains why particular crews accepted the risk. Elite competition provides a stronger mechanism for assembling those crews. Scandinavian power remained regional, negotiated, and uneven, with ambitious leaders dependent upon followers. Gifts of silver, weapons, feasting, and land could bind armed companions temporarily. Overseas plunder offered resources beyond a leader's immediate farming base. Success could finance loyalty, marriage alliances, ships, and renewed ventures. This model does not require every participant to share one private motive. Leaders, navigators, experienced fighters, debtors, and younger household members could value a voyage differently. Collective action emerged when their unequal interests aligned around a feasible expedition. Inheritance is often invoked, especially the supposed exclusion of younger sons. Later laws reveal varied practices, but they cannot be projected uniformly backward across 8th century Scandinavia. Land scarcity may have mattered locally without operating as a universal Scandinavian trigger. Raiding also began before large overseas settlement absorbed whole families. The earliest pattern, therefore, fits seasonal acquisition more closely than organized escape from overpopulation. Environmental evidence does not demonstrate a single sudden demographic crisis spanning Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Farms expanded in some areas, while settlement histories differed sharply elsewhere. Population growth could intensify competition gradually, yet available evidence cannot measure its exact contribution. Ship technology supplied an enabling condition, not an automatic command to raid. Clinker-built hulls joined overlapping planks into strong, flexible structures. Sails allowed crews to exploit wind, while oars supported maneuvering near coasts and rivers. Shallow draft opened beaches and waterways beyond major harbors. Such vessels still demanded timber, iron rivets, rope, woolen sailcloth, food, maintenance, and trained cooperation. Building a capable ship represented accumulated household labor and specialized judgment. Technological improvement made distant surprise practical, but choices determined how that capacity was used. Anglo-Saxon kingdoms competed with one another, and local defenses varied across exposed coastlines. Carolingian rulers concentrated power through conquest, tribute, missions, and military pressure near the Danish frontier. Some scholars connect Frankish expansion against the Saxons with Scandinavian insecurity or retaliation. That hypothesis is plausible for particular Danish interests, but cannot explain every Norwegian or Baltic departure. The chronology also resists a single reaction beginning at one court. Overseas attacks appeared across different regions and soon followed different routes. Norwegian-facing networks reached northern Britain, Ireland, and Atlantic islands. Danish-oriented forces became deeply involved in Francia and England. Eastern travelers moved through Baltic and river systems where trade, tribute, and settlement followed other conditions. These directions reflect geography and prior connections more than a coordinated Scandinavian plan. Small ventures could spread through imitation after demonstrating possible rewards. Returning crews carried not only valuables but knowledge about tides, approaches, languages, defenses, and political divisions. Captured pilots, local allies, merchants, and settlers may also have supplied knowledge, though evidence varies by case. Repeated contact gradually transformed isolated strikes into recognizable routes. Rulers fortified places, mobilized forces, guarded rivers, and sometimes paid tribute. Defenses pushed attackers toward new coasts or encouraged larger coalitions. Payment could make organized threat more profitable than hurried theft. Winter camps then extended operational seasons and demanded reliable provisioning. These later developments should not be read backward as the first cause. What began as relatively small raiding expanded through feedback between success and resistance. Captivity was central to that economy from an early stage. People could be ransomed locally, sold through markets, or forced into labor. Their movement connected Western attacks with commercial systems extending far beyond Scandinavia. Written sources emphasize elite treasure, while captives often appear only as numbers or absences. For households attacked, the primary consequence could be separation rather than lost metalwork. For Scandinavian households, unfree labor could increase production and reinforce inequality. Religion shaped perception and target choice without proving a war against Christianity. Pagan crews may not have shared Christian reverence for churches or protected sacred property. That difference removed a restraint that Christian observers assumed should apply. Nevertheless, economic and tactical advantages explain attacks on monasteries more consistently than theological conquest. Scandinavian raiders later served Christian rulers, converted, and attacked fellow Christians. The behavior followed opportunity and politics more flexibly than a single religious program. Foreign silver reached Scandinavia through trade, gift exchange, tribute, and raiding. A coin's final burial place cannot identify the root or motive of its carrier. Patterns of imported silver do show appetite for movable wealth within expanding networks. Bullion could be weighed, cut, exchanged, displayed, or remade rather than valued only as currency. This flexibility made overseas metal useful across societies with different monetary practices. Risk remained considerable despite the later legend of easy riches. Ships could founder, crews could lose battles, and local resistance could trap attackers. Voyages took people away from farming, fishing, craft, and household obligations. An expedition required enough expected reward to justify those costs. Political entrepreneurs could shift risk onto followers while claiming disproportionate prestige from success. That inequality helps explain repeated ventures better than an entire population suddenly becoming adventurous. No surviving evidence reveals the first raider who converted commercial knowledge into a target plan. Nor can archaeology isolate hunger, ambition, coercion, and opportunity within each participant. The strongest explanation operates at the level of systems rather than private thoughts. Maritime capacity connected Scandinavia to wealthy shores. Trade supplied information, elite competition organized armed labor. Accessible targets offered portable goods and captives, while fragmented defenses improved the odds of escape. Population trends, frontier conflict, and local inheritance pressures may have intensified particular regional decisions. Early success then created roots, expectations, and political rewards that encouraged imitation. Overseas resistance produced larger forces, tribute strategies, camps, and eventually conquest. Those consequences belong to later stages, not a plan visible at the beginning. Raiding emerged where several conditions overlapped and their balance differed from coast to coast. Remove seaworthy ships, and surprise loses reach. Remove intelligence, and voyages become blind. Remove competitive leaders, and armed crews become harder to finance and reward. Remove vulnerable concentrations of wealth and people, and the expected return falls sharply. No single lever started the Viking Age across an entire region. Scandinavians began raiding overseas because connected maritime societies made organized predation possible, profitable, and politically useful in particular places.